All right, everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today, have a very special guest. I think we met, what has it been, like 3 or 4 years now? Has it been that long?
I think
I
so.
think the
I know.
last year and a half feels like an eternity anyway, right? So I think we were at the same conference like the week we got shut down, right?
Yes.
March 2020.
Yes.
Wow, it was only that long, but it feels like,
But I think, John, we met at the did you come to the first
I was
business
at the
summit?
first one. Yeah.
So I think that we met there
Yeah.
briefly,
Yeah.
but reconnected more at the second one.
The
Yeah.
second one, yeah, which again, March 2020 feels like it's been like 5 years.
Yeah.
So depending on who you talk to. But yeah, so everyone, this is Fran, an amazing woman. I'd love for you to describe to everyone, what you do, who you are, what brought you into the industry. Just give us a background of what you got.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, John. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Um, like you, we're passionate about helping people be healthy and live a life that's easy to manage. I think that's probably one of the things that resonates the most between you and I. We want things to be simple for people. So I'm a personal trainer, but I am also a pain management coach and I'm an educator. And so the personal training part I got into just because I wanted to become healthier. And then I got asked to teach a fitness class and I was the trainer for my roller derby team. So I thought I should get some education. So I became a personal trainer. And that's kind of how I got into it. But then I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia and I had a huge health issue with stress, which is what we're talking about today, which is why it's really important. But through that whole journey, then I realized that pain management, whether you have fibro or you just are exercising or just everyday life, we deal with pain all the time. And people don't really, I think, sometimes take the time to actually understand how difficult and how many elements to pain there actually is. We sometimes think about it just as I bang my hand and then I have pain, or I work out and then the muscles are sore. But there's so many underlying factors that contribute to it. So I'm very passionate about people and helping those people live a pain-free lifestyle. That's sort of my one thing. And I find there are so many elements to it, and stress is a very, very large one, which is why I'm really excited to talk about that today. So that's
Amazing.
kind of me in a nutshell. So I've been in the industry since 2013.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And I was, when you brought, when you emailed me about the podcast and you brought the topic of like stress and pain in the body and how they connect, I was really intrigued by it because, I don't have a lot of kind of knowledge and education in like pain, stress management. I only know kind of, I would call it surface level stuff, I think, at this point. So when you were like, we can talk about this and connect the two, I'm like, yes, like that's pretty damn important. I imagine the last year and a half for most people listening to this have been stressful to say
Yes.
the least. So I think
Yes.
this is a great timing. What would you say? So like, how does the stress impact pain on the body? Like how do they connect? Because that's where I think I'm lost a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. So when we think about it, I'm going to break it down to the simplest way so it's very easy to understand. So basically, when we feel stress in our body, we have all heard the term fight or flight. And
Mm,
what the body does is it prepares itself to fight or flight. And so the muscles tense, there's increased blood flow, the heart rate increases, the breathing increases, and your body gets into a system and it gets ready to fight or flight, whatever happens to be around us. Okay. And that's good, right? It keeps us safe. That's sort of the message to the body to say, hey, there's something going on. You need to be aware. There could be danger. And way back when, it was caveman and the dinosaurs and all that, but now it's our everyday life, and it keeps us safe. Okay, so that's the thing. And the key point about that is the muscles will start to activate themselves. They tense up and they activate because they're ready for action. That's great. That's helpful. But the problem is, and this is, I think, where a lot of people are, is that when we're in a chronic stressful situation, we then are wrecking the body. I'm using that term loosely, but it's exactly what it means. So you have to think about when we are stressed, we release cortisol, right? And so I know you talk to your clients about this. If your cortisol is high, then that's hard for you to lose weight or to keep the weight off, and all the things you're doing to be healthy is just fighting against itself because the cortisol is really high. Cortisol actually naturally helps reduce pain. So it's a pain management hormone,
Okay.
but when it is in high levels for an extended period of time, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It actually fights the system. So I'm going to tell you this, called central sensitization. And that's when the nervous system is constantly in a state of stress and the cortisol is fighting itself. So the body actually can't use the cortisol to help reduce pain. It actually creates pain.
Okay.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
That's interesting. Yeah, no, very interesting. Yeah, I know of cortisol. I didn't know it was to do with pain management.
Yeah,
So like
it helps.
when it comes to elevated, like you get people who say like I'm stressed all the time,
Yep.
Are there, and we know exercise is a stressor, but it's a good stressor. So like, are there other good stressors, bad stressors in this
Yes.
aspect of things?
Yeah. So this is where the thing about stress is kind of, if you do research on it, there's so much information. I like to keep it really, really simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yes, we have good stress and bad stress. I like to think about it as internal stress and external stress.
Oh, okay, nice.
Okay. So, internal stress is stress that you have control over. Okay. So, these are your feelings, your thought, your exercise, right? You're making the body work. These are things you control.
Mm-hmm.
And there's external stress. Those are the things that happen in your environment that you really don't have a whole lot of control over. And
Traffic.
so, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about good stress, yeah, exercise is great for your body and it's fantastic to keep you healthy and keep your body mobile and all the things that we talk about with our clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have, so for myself, I have fibro, or maybe you have an injury. If you are in a state of inflammation and pain, because that's what happens, you have pain and then the body has inflammation, and the cortisol that you're releasing because of the stress makes the inflammation go up, which then increases the pain in your body.
Oh, okay.
So if you are in a state of stress and you exercise, your body is not going to recover the way that it can. The muscles themselves will not recover the right way because
Mm-hmm.
they cannot. They have too much stress, cortisol, inflammation to actually get the benefits. So for when you're working with your clients and mine as well, like when you're exercising, you tear the muscle fibers and then
Mm-hmm.
we repair them. Well, if there's already inflammation in there and there's pain and the cortisol, you can't repair the muscle fibers properly. So then maybe you're prone to more injury. Maybe you take longer to recover. You have more muscle soreness for longer, or
Mm-hmm.
you just can't recover.
You don't recover. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I was in a state of inflammation, I literally was told you can't exercise. And I'm like, what? They're like, you can't exercise, like really, because your body, your muscles are not able to recover.
Hmm.
And the thing that's connected with the stress is that there are many factors that cause stress. Sleep, lack of sleep, poor diet, not exercising, right? The stress about work, the stress about the external things we can't control, and the stress about some of the internal things that we can control.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of factors that contribute to stress. And when I mentioned just at the beginning of the podcast about me and my health issue with stress, I lost vision in my eye, and I was in bed for 4 months off of work.
Oh my
And I
God.
had a constant, and I'm not exaggerating, I had a constant migraine. And the only time it went away was when I was at Emerge, and they would manually give the medication through a vein, and I
Hmm.
would have maybe half an hour of relief. But my vision loss was caused by extreme stress. And
That's
I lost
intense.
4 months of my life. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
So yeah, so we think about how we're in this constant state of stress, but the reality is that it affects you and you don't know that it's affecting you. And there may be a point in your life where something really small creates this massive impact on your health. So when we talk about stress, I like to talk about external and internal, and those are kind of the two things and the two ways that I like to divide stress up. And I feel we often, and I'm making a generalization, but we often worry and stress about things that are actually external factors and not internal factors.
I was gonna make a point. Like, what do you do like when the internal comes from the external? Like something happens, and then you sit on it, and then it does it become internal then, and then then what do we do there?
Yeah, so you want to jump ahead to the
No, I don't have to jump ahead. I
no,
just
no,
have
it's all good. Absolutely.
right.
Yeah, it's and so then so I want you to think about too, like um we can further divide it into three categories, okay? Cognitive stress, so your beliefs, your thoughts, your perceptions. So the thing I want you to think about is, how do you manage your past, present, and future? Are you living in the past and replaying? So maybe this is part of what you're talking about. You're replaying things over in your mind, but you can't change them. Like they happened in the past, but you really have no that. So it's an external thing. You've made it internal by starting to worry about it now.
Yep.
But the reality is you actually still can't change it because it happened in the past and it's over.
Okay.
So it's kind of, that's something when you think about cognitive things. Is it the past? Is it the present? Is it the future? And then where are you in that timeline and what can you do to impact it? So can you control it? Like that really becomes the ultimate question, I think, when people are dealing with stress is, can you change that situation? And it's really a yes no question. If I can change it, fantastic. What can I do to change it? So then you make a plan and move forward. And I'm going to give you some tools for that. We're going to work on some strategies. But if the answer is no, or you've done what you could, and there's no, it's maybe I don't know, I sent you the wrong email, or I made a faux pas with something that I said to you. Well, what can I do? I can respond, I can reach out to you, but in the end, the next step is yours.
Yeah.
And I can't make a change. I can't make you do something. I can only do as much as I can do.
It's
And then I
very
do have to let
stoic
it go.
of you. Yeah. Very stoic. Which
But
is
it
true.
is,
Yeah,
right?
no, it's honestly not easy for people because we are, I think, toss in social media and toss in what we've been going through for the past year and a half, or almost 2 years
100%.
at this point. Like, I think a lot of us get wrapped up in external, but we make it internal, or
Yes.
we get wrapped up in what coulda, shoulda, woulda. And that's why I dove into stoicism a little bit last year. And one of my
Yeah.
favorite things is like, you can control what you can control. And
Yes.
as easy as it is to say, it's hard to kind of mimic that in real life because, I've gotten mad in traffic and I've yelled at other drivers and just other things have happened. But like, I can't control what everyone else is doing. All I control is my reaction to what is happening. And most time your reaction should be next to nothing, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's a perfect segue into the next kind of stress, which is behavioral stress. And so
Okay.
this is really, I want you to think about, what do you do when you feel stressed? So some people might go into the physical part and they actually overdo their exercise. Like instead of going for a walk, I'm gonna run 10K. Really? Because
Mm-hmm.
you've never run 10K before. Like you're so pissed off that you're like, I'm gonna run it out, man. I'm gonna feel good, right? So what do you do? Some people overeat, some people undereat, some people binge alcohol or recreational drugs, or there's a whole, maybe they have fights with their partners. So these are all behavioral things. These are the impacts of stress. So it's not just the stress, the cell that itself, it's actually what do you do because of the stress, which is what I want people to think about. So that's where it comes from, the cognitive. Where are you living?
Mm-hmm.
The behavioral, what do you do in response to stress that you have in your life? And then the third one is the physical. So this can go weight gain, weight loss, poor sleep, bad digestion, bad poop, not going to the bathroom, can't recover from exercise. These are all the impacts of stress as well. So stress is such a huge topic. And I think, I know I said to you, can you control it or can't you? Is it internal or external?
Yeah.
Very simplistic, but I think if you can pare it down into literally that question, can I control it or can't I? Then you can easily decide, okay, well, if I can control it and it's internal, what am I going to do? And then you literally set out a plan of what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And it may come to the point where you can only do so much because we cannot control what other people do, like
Sure.
at all. I can be as angry about whatever choices you make or decisions you do or your actions, but I cannot control what you do. I mean, you're a father, you have a new son, like you can teach them, you can teach both your sons, this is what we should do. But in the end, they're gonna make a choice. and it might not be the one that you guide them to, right? And you go, oh man, don't do that. And they're like, no, it's fine. I can help my baby brother with his diaper. I got this, right? And it's literally a shit show,
You
right?
just described a
But
5-year-old. Yeah.
right, do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you can guide people, you can help them, but you cannot control them. And so I think the sooner that we can kind of detach ourselves from the outcome based on other people's actions, the
Mhm.
less stress we can have.
I think so. Yeah. And I didn't, I mean, the breakdown of the three types is important because I think when people are in like the state of go 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 all the time, which a lot of people are, even if we're stuck at
Yep.
home,
Yep.
if it's a physical go 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 or a mental one, like the self-awareness of what's actually going on is
Yeah.
important because I think most people probably don't take enough time to reflect on their day, either before or after or in between, what
Yep.
their actions are like. Just take a minute to breathe.
Yes.
And so, like, it's very easy for something to happen in the cognitive to translate into the behavioral, to translate into the physical. And before you know it, some really bad shit has happened to you because of the stress that you weren't able to kind of work through or control or fix or something, right? To sound, I'm on the right track a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. But the thing is that I don't know. So when I work with my clients, I do personal training, but I also do coaching. And a lot of the components of the coaching that we deal with stress, we deal with time management. I'm sure you do a lot of similar things with your clients.
Yeah.
We do a lot of things with forgiveness. I'm going to talk about some of these things. And the thing is that when you want to change something, and you know this, and I know your people that are listening, your audience knows this, when you want to change something, it's hard work. It's just hard work, and you have to do the work. It's not an easy fix. Can't do it quickly. Sometimes it feels like shit. You got to do the work. And if you don't do the work, you're not going to get there. So what happens with people when they're dealing with their stress is they get to a certain point and they're like, okay, I did all the things and I did what you told me, but then they get to the one thing that's hard,
Mm.
like emotionally hard, not physically hard, emotionally or mentally hard. And they're like, whoa, I can't do it. And then that's when the roadblock happens. And then they don't get where they need to be. They're not able to manage or deal with that stressful thing because often, the major things that cause stress, money,
Yep.
relationships, health, life changes, and work. Those are like the five major things. And I would say relationships are probably number one right after money or right in the same
And around there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with other people, like you said, I can't control them. So
Mhm.
but people, we want to
Yeah.
have control over that outcome and what the other person does, and we can't, and letting that go is a really difficult thing for people to do. So
I
when they
agree.
get to that point, they just give up, and then stress cycle starts again.
That's very interesting too. And I think it's true. Like, well, I mean, I work with a lot of coaches helping them build their businesses too. And I think a lot of them are shy because they're scared of what other people will think of them online too. So that plays a role in their stress. And that's their roadblock and barrier. Maybe it's past trauma, maybe it's other things that they're worried about, how people perceive them, or are they going to be made fun of? And, 9, 10 times out of 10, people aren't making fun of each other for helping others online. That's really not what happens. But
Yeah.
it's that block. It's that like mental barrier for each other. It's interesting that how you break it down like that for sure.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, with stress, it's sometimes too, and it depends on the person, and you hit it for sure, John. Past trauma and things that they've dealt with, they have a lot of layers to unpack. And so dealing with a stressor or dealing with the root of the cause of it is very difficult for them because there are so many components to it,
Mhm.
that they just don't want to. It's too much work. And it is hard for sure. But it's worth it.
100%. But that's the thing. It's delayed versus instant gratification part of it too, though, right? Like, I think we all know it's worth it, or most of us do. Like, grass is greener on the other side, or you want to get somewhere and you're willing to do what it takes when you say that. But when it comes to the actual work, sometimes there, like you said, there's blocks, or
Yep.
not actually willing to do everything that it takes to get there, whether it's for work, whether it's for health, whether it's relationship building, whatever it
Yep.
is. Everyone has blocks. None of us are perfect
Of course.
Superman here, like going through no problem, but it's how you deal, I think, with those blocks or through them. That's the
Yeah,
difference maker.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So shall we deal with some of these things?
Sure. Yeah. Let's jump right in.
Okay, so you mentioned one of them, which we're going to hit at first, and it's all about breathing. So, what I would like you to do is I want you to close your eyes,
Okay.
and I want you to just feel in your body and feel where there might be some stress. Everybody has a location on their body where they hold their stress. So see if you can locate it.
I think I'm
And
feeling it right away.
yep, good. Yeah, and if you don't locate a stressed area, just see if there's some tightness in your body and focus on that part of the body, okay? If you can, if it's possible, I'd like you to put your hand on that spot. If you can't, no problem. Don't worry about it. But if you can, put it there. Perfect. And now we're going to inhale and we're going to exhale. And as you inhale through your nose, you're just going to think about relaxation. And as you exhale, I want you to think about release. And we're going to inhale relaxation and exhale release. And I want you to focus on that part of the body. Inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. One more inhale and exhale. And then I gently want you just to open your eyes and see how that spot feels.
It's like melted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this is a fantastic thing that you can do. It literally took us what, 10, 20 seconds, I think.
Yeah.
You can do it throughout your day. So when you feel like you're panicked or things fall apart in the morning or the kids are crazy or whatever, just you have to go to the bathroom and go into the bathroom and close the door and just find that spot. Touch it if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. Just think about it and inhale and exhale a few times. Relaxation and release. And you are teaching, and the reason I say touch it if you can, and if you can't, just think about it. We were trying to make the mind body connection, which is exactly what we do when we exercise, right? We want the muscles to do the work. We're teaching the muscles to relax. They don't know how to relax, especially if you found a stressful spot. They're like immediately. It's my right low back. Immediately when I feel stressed, my right low back tenses up. Like someone grabbed it, I can feel it.
Wow.
It's that quick. So you want to teach that muscle, you don't have to do the work. It's all good. And the more you do it, the more you can teach the muscle to relax. So it's that little short breath work exercise is fantastic to do throughout the day.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. Next thing is we need to know what causes our stress. So you're going to take out a piece of paper and you're going to write down all the things that cause you stress. So take 10 or 15 seconds and just write down things that cause you stress. Sometimes that list is full of people, which is sometimes the hard thing.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That one comes and goes.
Yes, it can
The
come and
list
go.
of people, yeah.
Yes. So you got a few things written down.
Yeah.
So now what you're going to do, so remember I talked earlier about internal and external.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to look at that list of stressors and I want you to put it down. Is it an internal? Just put an I beside it. And if it's an external stressor, put an E beside it. So remember, internal ones are thoughts, emotions, feelings, perceptions, things that you can control. External is more environmental. Work. So for example, a good example is work. I have a boss. That's an external stressor. I can't control what my boss does.
Yeah.
Policy and procedure where I work, that's an external stressor. I have school teachers as clients. The Ministry of Education rules and curriculum development, external stressor. They think it's internal because it affects them, but it's the effect and their emotions attached to it.
Initially, I put internal for work because I control most of my schedule, but my clients are my bosses, technically speaking, right? It's not that they don't work for me. Yeah, so that's more of an external.
Yes, it is. So I would say this is multifaceted. It's a great example, John. Thanks. Because it is external because it's the people, right? But the internal component is you are the coach. So you set your hours, you set your boundaries,
Fair.
you set, do you know what I mean? So yes, they are external, but your relationship and how you have that relationship with them is something that you control. They don't set the parameters, you
Fair.
set the parameters. Does it make sense?
Yeah, clients, I love you. Just
Yeah, I love the clients. All of our clients, we love you all.
it's
But
the
it's the
work.
same
It's
thing as
all the
you love.
works.
Yes,
Yeah,
you love them. They love you,
of
right? But
course.
sometimes you're an external stressor for them, and it's also internal, right?
It's
Like
true.
both ways. But
That's
yes,
fair.
people are probably the hardest thing. So you've identified the internal and external. So
Yeah.
now we are only worrying about the internal ones.
Okay.
So you can cross off the external.
All right.
So that might have, maybe that halved your list. Maybe you've only got a couple real big ones on there.
It's 2 out of 7 left.
2 out of 7. That is freaking awesome. Good. But do you see what I mean? How simple that is? Can I
Yeah.
control it? Can I not control it?
No.
That's the question, right? So now you got two. So can I ask what the two are that you got there, just so that our
Yeah, it's
listeners have
lack
an
of
idea?
my own kind of training because I haven't really exercised much,
Okay.
and money.
And money. Okay, fair enough. So the thing to think about now, what you'll do, and you can do this on your own, is you need to think about you have control over your own training. So what are some strategies that you can implement to make sure that you do your own training,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
Set up a time, put in the schedule, get an accountability person,
Same thing I
just
tell
do
my
the shit.
clients.
Just do it.
It's
Just
true.
do it, man, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
but it's true though, as trainers, we don't take care of ourselves, take care of everybody else, and we don't follow our own advice. So make a plan. Pick maybe 3 different things you can do to actually implement and to change and control that internal stressor and how you can make differences. Does it make sense?
100%.
Okay. Now I have what's called the 3Ds. So this is something I like to use for my daily list. So my life, okay? Because I want something practical
Hmm.
for you to use and for your audience to use. So it's called the 3Ds. I use this for my to-do list every day. Decide, delegate, or delete.
Ooh, like that. I think
So when you plan your day, you're going to get a piece of paper and you're going to make 3 columns on it. Decide, delegate, delete. And you may, you might, I'm not sure how you plan your day, John. Some people will have like a daily run or a running list for the week of all the things that have to get done.
yeah.
You can take that and put it in there, decide, delegate, or delete. So
Okay.
all you're going to do is all the to-do things you need to do. Number one, you're going to decide that you're going to do it. The second list is delegate. You're going to give it to somebody else to do.
Hmm.
Or the third one is you're going to delete.
Just not
It's
gonna
not
do it.
important.
Yeah.
For example, in the gym behind me, which your viewers cannot see, I have curtains that separate part of the studio. Those curtains have been there for many years. They need to be hemmed. Every week, I used to hem my curtains in the studio on my list every week for about a year and a half.
Oh
Until
my
I learned,
God.
and honestly, until I finally went, why is this not on my delete list? Now I don't even care if my curtains get hemmed. It doesn't even matter.
Not a
It's not
priority.
that important. But that's the thing, is that's where the stressors come in, is we have these little things that we think are so important
Yep.
that we stress about doing those little things when we actually avoid the big things that we need to, that are much more important, that are
It's
causing more
interesting.
stress. Does that make sense?
100%. As a just anecdotally, like as a business owner, but I
Mhm.
also like mentor other coaches. Like, so I've done things different ways over the past 5 years.
Yep.
So I've had like a daily planner notepad, which I can map out the hours, my top 3 to do.
Yep.
And I did that for a while. And then, life just got exceptionally busy where schedules never matched up what I needed them to. Now I've kind of gone to like, what do I need to, like 3 things a day kind of list,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is pretty good. But I find my brain sometimes just ping pongs around. There's more things to do or things I think about. So then I
Yes.
had post-it notes. So
Okay.
then I would have my to-do list. Then I have anytime I had an idea, jot in a post-it note. So then
Yep.
what I would do, if the post-it note was sitting there for more than 3 days, garbage.
Yeah. So that's exactly the delete.
Yeah. I'm like,
Yes.
I looked at, I'm like, these post-it notes are still sitting here. I'm like, why? I look at
Yeah.
them, read them. I don't need to do this right now. Like I had a bunch of stuff for different program ideas, and I'm like, you know
Yep.
what? Where I am right now, it's not
Yeah.
important. So
Yes.
if it's important and I need to do it, they'll come back to me and I'll do it.
Yes. So I have a solution for that as well. So I have a list called It Would Be Nice.
Oh, okay. I like that. Let's hear it.
So it's my It Would Be Nice list.
Yeah.
So you can have a piece of paper or a journal. So whenever it would be nice. So my curtains actually went from my delete list to my It Would Be Nice list. And it's just there. And it's just a running list. There's no time frame. I don't look at it often. If something pops into my head and I go, oh, do I need to do that now? Could I put it on my 3Ds? Could it be a weekly thing that no, it would be nice. I just go and put it on my, it would be nice list. And then
Nice.
every once in a while, when I'm, cleaning up my office and stuff, I pull out the book. I go, oh, it would be nice book. And I flip through and go, oh yeah, that would be nice. And then I close it
Yeah,
or I grab it and say, this is the time to do it. So it's a great way to keep ideas,
I like
especially
that.
when it comes to businesses
Yeah.
and programs and things like that, or promos or whatever you want to do. Just put it on the it would be nice list. And then every once in a while you pull that out. So that's my solution for
I love that idea. Also, because like when it comes to-do lists, and my wife can attest to this because we have like a shared iPhone note to-do list for the two of us.
Yep.
When I see the note get too long, it stresses me out because I'm like,
Yes.
oh, I have all these things to do. I need to get them done now. Even though 9 times out of 10, they're not a priority in that moment, but it's a dopamine hit. When I check that box off that I did that thing, I feel good. Right.
Yes.
But then it again, and maybe not everyone can attest to this because they're not a business owner, but it takes me away from what I was supposed to do. Maybe I was supposed to write posts that day. Instead, I started fixing the dishwasher. I don't know what it is, what I mean? Like other things take you away. But yeah,
so use that 3Ds for that list. When you've got the thing, maybe you guys can set up a decide, delegate, delete with your wife, and then or decide, delegate, and maybe, put a time frame on the delete ones and then revisit them.
Yeah. Or I have to set boundaries on myself too, to not look at it so often too. I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Sure.
That's
Boundaries are important. Yes. I got one last thing that I want people to think about when they're dealing with their stress.
All right.
It's a big one, so I left it for last.
Nice.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness
is gigantic for anyone who's done some of this work. I'm sure working with you and with other people and through their life. We think, and I'm speaking for myself as well, we believe that we have forgiven people because we don't think about that person or that event. But we are still holding on to that anger and resentment, and you need to let it go. Because if you don't, you cannot move forward in any area of your life. So that stressful spot on your body that you felt during that first breathing exercise, your body manifests pain due to emotions. And lack of forgiveness is the emotion that causes pain in your body. If you have tightness in your chest, so I'm going to get a little woo-woo here. If you have tightness in your chest at all, not necessarily the muscles, but if you foam roll or if you do an exercise and you're like, oh man, like it's really difficult, this is the heart chakra. There is forgiveness work that has to be done there. So my suggestions, what I guide people to do, make a list of people who have wronged you. Doesn't matter how big or small, doesn't matter whether you think you've forgiven them, just put them on the list. And then one by one, you're going to tackle them and you're going to write them a letter and a forgiveness letter. You're forgiving them. This is the important thing. You're forgiving them. You're not explaining what they did. You're not rationalizing why you were upset or you didn't forgive them or you were angry with them. You are just offering forgiveness to them. Then you get to reread the letter, and you must reread it again and again and again until there is no emotion left. And when it's done, you get to burn it.
Oh.
So it's a long process. Yeah, you get to burn it because you want to release it, right? The burning is the releasing of it. But the thing is, you read it and you read it out loud. And the first time I did this, I was like, oh, it's no big deal. This something happened like 20 years ago. No big deal. Oh my gosh, John, I cried like a baby and I had to put the letter away. I couldn't finish reading the letter out loud.
Wow.
And then I had to come back. It took me months to do it.
I believe it. Sounds scary and intense.
But it's so good.
Yeah,
it's very scary and intense. So for everyone who's listening and for you as well, John, when you do this, pick the easiest thing that's on your list and start with that. Because it's a muscle, right? The forgiveness muscle needs to be taught how to do it. Pick the easiest thing, write the letter, get through that one, and then you can slowly go up to the harder ones.
I mean, writing the letter without explaining what they how do you write that without explaining what they did in the letter?
You can explain what they did and why you were angry, but you are not explaining why you are justified to be angry.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that's really important. And so for people who, and I bring this up because I work with clients from a personal training point of view, and sometimes they can't get past a certain barrier. They can't get past that certain point. It's not a physical issue. It's not physical at
That
all.
makes
It's
sense. Yeah.
emotional.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's emotional. So once they can release that and get rid of that anger, and remember the person that you haven't forgiven, they don't care. They they've moved on with their life. It's like someone said, one of my coaches said to me, and I want to leave you with this. Being angry and resentful towards somebody and not forgiving them is like you drinking poison and expecting them to die.
Nice. Yeah, that hits.
Right? It's same as the stress. You holding on to stress and worrying about things that you have no control over is exactly like drinking poison and expecting that external stressor to die. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. That's why I don't watch the news either.
Yes, yes. Again, external stressor. Just don't watch it.
Yeah.
It's all good. We have a pandemic. There's COVID. Blah blah blah. Like,
pretty much, nothing's really changed in that sense. Yeah, pretty much.
No.
You're
Yes.
still going to be stressed out by watching it, no matter who's on the TV. Yeah, that's intense,
Yeah.
Fran. Yeah, that's some really deep. I had to pause there for a second. I'm like, that's tough exercise.
It is a tough exercise. It takes a while. Don't expect, is as with anything for you, for all your listeners, it takes time to do everything. So do it step by step. Start with the things that are easy and go through it piece by piece, and you'll get there. It can take a long time, right? It depends. You might have spent 40 plus years holding all the stressors and the lack of forgiveness and all these things, not breathing properly. Like you're teaching yourself to do all of these things, right? Or trying to feel like you work with busy parents, that they have to control everything and they have to do everything. You don't have to do everything. You're doing amazing things. You're raising human beings. Like that's what I say to my clients. You're raising a human being. Some people are raising 4 human beings. You're good. If the dishes don't get done or you miss a workout or you eat 7 donuts, okay. Like John might be pissed about 7 donuts, but
I mean, 7's a little bit. That's a lot of donuts. I don't know how. I would just be like, I'd be like pleasantly surprised that someone could eat that many donuts in one sitting, because even I would struggle with that.
Yeah.
I'm a big man. That's funny. How do you deal with like clients that like push back on this kind of stuff?
Everybody needs to be ready in their own time.
Fair.
So if clients push back on this, and forgiveness is the big one. So when I work with clients, forgiveness isn't out the gate, right? Let's be honest. So let's say I'm working with someone for, let's say I have a 12-week program. So we're in the 12-week. We will start to make the list for forgiveness in usually week 4 or 5. And all I tell them is I just want you to make a list of people that have wronged you and that you feel maybe anger or resentment towards. I just want you to make the list and send it to me. And that's usually the first step. And then the next time we talk about, okay, well, so which one do you think is the most difficult? And then which is the easiest one? And why? Just kind of a summary. And then from there, I get them to work on the letter. And some people, some people don't want to do it because they feel they're justified. And I totally understand that. Like, I get it. I went through it myself. Like, this was hard work. It took me 3 years and I'm still working on it, but I did a lot of the hard ones a few years ago and they were really difficult. But I feel so much better. Like, and the emotion attached to that person or those people is gone now. And so you really want to think about how it impacts your body from a physical way, because you can't live a life that's what you dream if you're holding on to things that are keeping you from that path. That's just the reality. Yeah. And I know it sounds all woo woo and all that stuff. And it is kind of woo woo, but there's lots of research behind it.
I mean, if you're putting in it makes sense. I'm not woo woo about at all, but if you're putting energy into something that's not serving you well,
yes,
it's you're taking away from where you can be spending your time and energy, for sure.
Absolutely. 100%. Like I talk to my clients about the whole COVID thing. Like the kids are at home at school. Yes, I can't imagine. I don't have children, so I can't imagine that parents who work outside the home were having to navigate all these kids in a homeschool. Like, what a freaking nightmare.
It's hard.
But it's an external stressor. You cannot change the fact that your kids can't go to school. So you need to make a plan. And some of my clients are like, my kids aren't going to school. We're out. Till they figure it out, we're out. Yeah. And that's fine.
That's their
Like
choice.
that's what they decided, right? So you do have control. We have lots of control over things in our life, and we
Mhm.
need to focus and put our energy and effort into things we actually can control.
Best
And
thing.
the other things, that's it. Can you control it? Can you not control it? Easy questions, and from there move forward.
I love it. It's true. And again, it's very easy to say. It's very hard to kind of follow through with that. But if
100%.
that was one guiding principle I give people, that would be it. Because too many people are spending too much time, especially with the internet and social media, worrying about what everyone else is doing when they need to fix themselves. Like,
Exactly.
no bullshit.
And it's a great distractor, right? Like it's a
Well, of
great way
course.
to avoid. It's an avoidance, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just focus on the things you can control, and every little bit counts. The smallest little thing that you do to move forward is awesome.
You
It
heard it
doesn't
here
have
first, folks. That's it. Fran said it. So if you start getting mad about, the Toronto Maple Leafs continue to suck or whatever else is happening, just stop, think for a minute. Has your favorite team ever done anything for you? No.
no.
They don't help. They don't contribute. Is making fun of someone else online helpful? No. Is arguing about diets online helping? No. Like it's the same. Nutrition and politics and religion, nobody's changing sides. So if you're one of those people who likes to pick fights and argue on the internet about this stuff,
Yeah.
just look in the mirror and talk to it about with yourself and just work on yourself, because arguing about this stuff it's not benefiting you. It's not benefiting other people. It's just creating more stress, more unnecessary things for you. And that's the sad truth about what's happening today for sure. Whereas I will not get into an argument online on Facebook about anything anymore.
Why? The way I look at it, I know it sounds kind of crass, but I think about it in the sense of who people have sex with. Heterosexual, transgendered, non-binary, homosexual. I don't care.
Yeah, word.
Like personally, I just don't care.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't offend your listeners, but I don't care who you have sex with. It makes no difference to me.
Well,
So anything politics, religion, all those things that you just mentioned,
yeah,
I think about it the same way. Vaccines, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't
to each their own.
To each their own, as long as they're not harming me, right? If they want to harm themselves, that's their choice.
Yep.
But I'm never going to change their opinions on anything. Just like so this is the key thing. They are never changing mine.
That's the thing.
That's the thing, is that we always forget when we're arguing with someone, or we want to be right, or we want to have these interactions. Not only will I not change their mind, they are never changing mine. So it doesn't really matter. Coke or Pepsi.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a battle of egos. That's the thing. I think people just stroking their egos, trying to prove themselves right, prove others wrong, change. It's not happening. And people will say that social media is toxic and I hate it. Here's a piece of advice for everyone listening to this. If you feel this way about social media, just remember this one thing. You control your social media. You determine who's on your news feed. You determine who you follow. If you don't like what your family members are saying on Facebook, mute them or unfollow them. It's very easy. Full disclosure, my desktop news feed is empty. I have a Google Chrome extension, gives me a motivational quote instead. So I can open up Facebook and I go to my groups that I need to attend to and I exit. I don't need to scroll any news feeds. So for anyone who has like negative feelings about social media, it's what you make it. It really is, because there's so many positive, amazing people out there looking to help other positive, amazing people out there. Like that's it. So if your feed is full of discussions about everything that's been going on, you control that. And I don't want to call you out and say it's your fault, but you can change it.
But it is, though. Like that's what it comes right down to. Those things are causing you not only to waste your time, but to stress you out. Why are you? And it's true. And that's what I say, John, about relationships. Relationships are really hard, and family is really hard. And it is. I think we've been given this lie in society that just because somebody is your family, that you can't call them out on their bullshit. Well, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry if your listeners don't like that, but it is true. If you're whatever, grandfather, brother, sister, whatever, are being a pain in the butt, and call them out on their shit, man. They don't deserve that, and you don't deserve it. Why should you take that from them? Yeah. You don't have to have them in your life just because they're your family. That's not true.
True words. And that's the thing. That's more stressors for you, right? And that's the overarching theme of this entire episode has been like controlling and dealing with stress.
Yes.
So
And
you go ahead. No,
yeah,
go ahead, jump it. Yeah.
yeah, no, and I was going to say, and this is the one thing I want to mention about relationships. So this is something, some people feel very stressed because they don't want to say something to somebody and they don't want that reaction from that other person, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't my advice, this is my advice and it works. Do not engage. Do not engage. All you do is go, mm-hmm, oh, mm, uh-huh. That's it. You do not engage. And what will happen is these people who are, let's say, negative people or stressors or in your life, what they want engagement.
Yep.
If you do not engage, they will extract themselves from your life on their own. You won't have to say anything. Or you have friends that have lots of drama, don't engage in the drama. You go, oh yeah, that's it. Interesting. Don't, nothing. You have no advice. You have no suggestions. Eventually, you will not be the person that they go to for advice because you do not engage. They will take care
That's
of it for
great. I love that.
themselves.
Yeah, that you just described a friendship I had where we worked in the same place, and he became this person who complained a lot, and then I was complaining a lot, and
Yep.
a bunch of us were all together, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
what are we really sitting around complaining for? So I just stopped engaging in those conversations,
Mhm.
and the friendship went where it went. But it's true, and with family members, same thing. And I think what happens too, if you have to call someone out, you can't control the reaction, which is what we're talking about too. You can't control how they react. You need to say your piece.
Yeah.
Say it. You cannot and will never control how they react to what you have to say.
Yep.
Their reaction's on them. It's not on
Mhm.
you. That's another thing that you really keep in mind here.
Yeah.
You are due respect, and whatever you need to say, just say it. And however they react is a description of them,
Yeah.
not you. So
Yes.
just keep that
Yes.
in mind. Yeah,
Mhm. Love that. That's
very much so.
awesome. Yeah. Love it. Love it.
That's great. This has been a great episode. Fran, you gave me a lot to think about. Anyone who's listening to this while they're driving, I hope you didn't close your eyes while you were
I
during
should
that
have put that as
exercise.
a warning. Oh man.
That's funny. But no, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing these strategies and this kind of mindset with us, because stress is never going away. And that's one thing people need to understand is, if you want to lose fat, gain muscle, get healthier, whatever it is, and you're worried about starting something new because life is stressful, life's always going to be stressful. Always. You're never going to have a moment or more than just a split second where you're like, yeah, I can really do whatever I want right now because I'm not stressed. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It literally doesn't exist. And for some reason, for some of us, it's good problems. It's good stresses to have. I might be stressed about money, but my business is growing. It's a good problem, right? But I still have to deal.
Yeah.
So if you're stressed, use this episode, listen to it a few times, take some notes, reach out to Fran. I'm sure she'd be more than willing to help each and every one of you. Where can everyone find you? I'll leave the links in the show notes anyways, but
Yep. They can find me on Instagram, Fran Garton Pain Coach. And I have there's a link in my link tree. There's a free pain quiz. And
yes.
I point this out. It's free. It's 18 statements and you just decide yes or no. And it identifies different areas. The results will give you information on maybe sleep, maybe forgiveness, maybe different areas that you can focus on to help working through your pain. And it might not be physical pain, it could be emotional pain, it might be behavioral things, but it's a fantastic tool because it really helps you identify what parts of your life do you need to put some more attention into. Whether you have pain or not, it's a fantastic tool to identify what's missing.
It sounds
in your
great.
life. So,
thank you for sharing that. Definitely, I'll link that in the show notes as well. But yeah, thank you again for taking the time. It's been an
My
amazing
pleasure.
episode. And
Thank you.
everyone listening, I hope this was very helpful for you as much it was for me. Like I said, I have notes, I have things I'm like in my brain, I'm like thinking of stuff. So thank you again, Fran, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Yes, thanks so much.
Take care.